Testing. Can you hear me okay? All right, all right. Well, we are delighted to be here today for Small Business and Entrepreneurship 101, and we've got a great panel for you. So our goal today is to make this as personal and conversational as we can so you get the real deal. You hear the high notes, but you hear the hard times that they've been through, how they've adjusted, how they've rebounded, and where they are. So I've got Daren Horton here, owner of Gecko Pest Control.
Good morning.
And I've got Tex Ruegg, Dr. Tex Ruegg with Rueggenbach Brewing Company. And we have Brandy Flanagan with the UT Tyler Longview Small Business Development Center and our Marshall branch. So as we start out today, we did a little visiting this morning and just talking about how this would go today. And if it's one thing I think they can all attest to, and we're going to give them an opportunity to speak to that, is sometimes timelines are just a suggestion, right? They change. and sometimes a change is here to stay, right? Always. And flexibility is the key. Sometimes you have to modify and change. But there are some foundational points that will not change that you need to know about. And so I'm going to give them an opportunity to pick up the mic, tell a little bit about each of their stories, and then we'll ask some pointed questions and then give you an opportunity to do the same. All right, Daren, I'm going to let you start.
Good morning, everyone. You know, that's what they say, if you want to give God a good laugh, let him know what your plans are. But I've been in the pest control industry for a little over 40 years. I got out of the Navy. I didn't graduate from high school. I got a GED when I was in the Navy. And when I got out of the Navy, I told my wife, I guess I could be a bug man until I figure out what I want to do. And here, 40 years later, I'm still doing the same thing. But I started out in a small family-owned company, and we were purchased by one of the largest companies in the country, in the world. And I went to work with them and became a technician, and then a salesman, and then a service manager, and then a sales manager, and then a branch manager. And I opened my business 24 years ago. I had that business for 8 years in Dallas and sold it. And my wife and I fell in love with Caddo Lake, right outside of Marshall here, which is beautiful. If you're here and you haven't been out there, you need to go see it. But I opened Gecko Pest Control in Marshall in April of 2008. And I grew the company to 14 employees, and when the recession was coming, I invested in software and routing systems and cut my service area down, and I've cut the number of employees down to 10 now. There's 9 plus myself, and I have learned in the past few years that revenue is vanity and profit is sanity. So one of the most important things I've learned lately is to know my KPIs, my key performance indicators. We had a local CPA, but we hired a firm out of New Jersey that does bookkeeping for about 300 different pest control companies. So we benchmark ourselves against other companies every month, so we know how we're doing. And the most important, it doesn't take a lot of money to open a business. I opened my company with $5,000. That was 23 years ago. But I got a used truck and some equipment and started servicing customers. I was very good at, the reason I got in pest control because I needed a job. I stayed here because I love people and I love relationships. One of the most important things that you can do, when I moved here, I knew some people at the lake where I lived and the church that I attended, but I didn't have any relationships in town, so I joined the Chamber of Commerce and started stuffing welcoming packets. I joined the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, the Chamber of Commerce at the lake, and my business was making relationships with people and getting to know folks. And then once I started getting customers, I serviced them properly. When they called me, I called them back, and they said, "Oh my gosh, you called me back." And I showed up when I was supposed to, and they said, "Oh my gosh, you showed up when you were supposed to." But the nuts and bolts, like Vince Lombardi said, this is a football. The basics will always be important. But as you grow and you get bigger, the most important thing that you can do is continue to educate yourself. I've learned more in the last 5 years, and technology is just wonderful, and that's what keeps my industry so interesting. But educating, and anyone that thinks they know everything is probably dangerous. So you should always continue to grow and read and share that with employees. And the most important thing I have learned in the past 10 years or so is that people, your people are so important, and my employee's job is to take care of the customers. My job is to take care of them. Relationships, the people that you hire, once you hire somebody, I hired people when I first started to get the job done. Well, you need to hire the right person. It's so critical, and I overlooked that, and I kissed a lot of frogs. But I have 9 tremendous employees that fit our culture. We all have the same vision. We all have the same goals. We're all on the same page. And if I had done that years ago, I would have been much more successful.
So I have to ask you before we move on, how do you foster that work environment where everyone is on the same page? How have you accomplished that?
Well, for a long time, I didn't want to get close to my employees. I kept them at arm's length. I might have to fire them. And it's quite the opposite. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. I know my employees. I care about them. They know me. They care about me. Always making honest decisions. When they see you do the right thing, a check comes in for a service we've already done. It's a big company. You could cash that check. You send it back because that's the right thing to do, and your employees see that. And they know that when the time comes, I'll do the right thing for them. But it's honesty, and we have a motto of God, family, and work, and in that order. And if I tell my employees, if you have those priorities in your life in that order, everything's going to be okay. And we don't live so we can work. We work so we can live. But the things that you do outside of work, if they affect your relationship with God, family, or work, then you need to make some adjustments. But like-minded people, the right people in the right seats, doing the right thing right. And we practice open book management. All of our employees know what our goals are for the month. They know what percentage of the month is gone, what percentage of our goal we're at. And when everybody's on the same page and pulling in the same direction, it's amazing what teams can do.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, check. Oh, there we go. All right, so my story is a little bit different. I'm kind of the unicorn up here. We are in the process of starting a business, so the success is still in the process. So I started this as previous to this, I was in higher education. So I've been a university registrar for 20 years. Have undergraduate and graduate degrees in business and a PhD in education administration. And I can tell you, with all of that education, it does not prepare you for opening your own business. So the biggest lesson is you are not going to know how to do this from just what you learn in school. It is really hands-on, and you learn as you go. So we are about a year into the construction of our business. We're hoping to wrap things up in the next month or so, and get the doors open. Yes, amen.
Anxiously awaiting.
Anxiously awaiting. Yes. So we went into this. I had a vision. I've been brewing for about 12 years, and home brewing. And from the beginning, I really wanted to do. I wanted to have a brewery. Wanted to do this for a living. We kind of had the vision for Marshall doing it here. We moved back. So I'm originally from Marshall, left and worked at several universities, and then came back. But we had the vision for it for Marshall as a way to build community and kind of revive the downtown, the beautiful square. So that was the vision with starting our business, was to have a destination location in downtown Marshall that would then encourage other businesses to come in. A place that was different. So yes, we produce beer, but what we're really trying to do is create community. So our environment is not a bar, but a brewery. So family-friendly, community-friendly, something to bring everybody together. So that was the vision we had. We started with this building that was the original fire station, the very first fire station in Marshall, in terrible disrepair, hole in the ceiling, grass growing on the floor. It was in bad shape. So the original building was built in 1871. It was the Salamander Fire Company. We came in and gutted that building completely, down to the bricks, the concrete floors, and these giant, really impressive I-beams that are so old that the metal is such a high carbon metal that you can't even weld to it, which we discovered in the construction process. So, which is one of the points when you're starting a business, you have to expect that you're going to run into things that you could have never expected. So as we were building, we ran into a lot of things where such as the I-beams, we needed to attach trusses to those I-beams, but we had no way to weld to it because the iron was such a high carbon iron that you can't actually weld to it. It's too brittle. It's very strong, but it doesn't take a weld. So things that you would never expect. Another thing that you would never expect is we're still dealing with supply chain issues from COVID, if you can believe that. We ordered electrical panels. We had 3 electrical panels that were special ordered for our building. We ordered those in January. They came in 2 weeks ago. So supply chain is still a real thing. So you have to kind of expect that the one thing that you would never expect to go wrong is probably the thing that's going to go wrong. So, and I don't say any of these things to be discouraging, but just to be aware that there will be challenges no matter how well you plan. And I, thinking I'm a pretty educated guy, thought I had planned out for most things, and I've come to discover that it doesn't matter how educated you are. There's so many of these things you have to learn as you go. And finding a mentor is a great, we were talking about this earlier, having someone locally who has already been through this that can mentor you. I certainly now am more prepared to talk to someone than I was a year ago about all the struggles, but then all the excitement too. So there are a lot of really great things that go into it.
The good news is your panels are ready. The bad news is UPS is going to strike.
Exactly. Yes, at this point now we're waiting for SWEPCO. So we were waited on the panels, now we're waiting for SWEPCO to get us connected. So there's always going to be challenges like that, but along the way we've had a lot of really incredible blessings too. And so the community has really rallied around us. I'm amazed at the amount of traffic we get on our website, the amount of follows we have on Facebook and Instagram. It really is incredible, the support that we've had from this local community. I know that they're excited about us being here and excited about what we're doing, and not just because beer, right? I mean, who couldn't be excited about beer? But because of what this means for the community and the vision that we have to help, to have a small business here, from someone who's from here, born and raised, Marshall, Texas. But the effect that it'll have on the community is really the most exciting part. So I'm grateful to everyone who's followed us and liked us and keeps up with us every day.
So before you pass the microphone to Brandy, tell us, not having started a business before, being in a whole different line of work, what was the single most important thing you feel like you learned, the connections you had to make first?
Right. Wow, there's so many. So, yeah, starting from the beginning. So writing a business plan, I feel like I was prepared for mostly through my education. So those of you who read it, I see all the people from the SBDC who've been involved with us and been such a great help to us. I wrote my business plan like a dissertation, so I'm sure it was a snooze fest for many people. A lot of research went into it, but I realized there were a lot of things that I needed help with. So all the numbers that I ran, I worked with the SBDC, and they really helped me compile those numbers in a way that made sense when we were going to get funding. So taking that and all the research I had done, presenting it so that the SBA would understand what we were doing and what that would look like. So tremendous help. So first of all, use the resources that you have available. That was the number one thing. And really this all started, I was the administrator for the Rotary Club in Longview, and I invited Dave Shellmeyer to come and speak to our club in Longview. And that kind of got the ball rolling as far as my relationship with the SBDC. I realized that was the resource that I needed. So I started there and worked with SBDC and they were a huge, huge help. From there, Medco, working with Rush, and just a tremendous support, made it more comfortable for me to do something that was such a huge dollar amount and such a huge risk to us personally. So unlike the pest control, opening a brewery is very expensive to start. It is not a small business that that is cheaply opened, and it's because it's so highly regulated as well. So everything that we did, so I had to learn all the things about licensing through the TTB, the Tax and Trade Bureau, TABC, and then licensing through state comptroller and the city, and everything that's involved in alcohol. There's so many hoops to jump through. So not just the financial side, but also just the legal side of having to understand all of those rules.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure you know throughout the day there are those resources here locally. Brandy will share about the SBDC. Certainly the City of Marshall is here as well from the standpoint of where do you start? What do you need to do with permitting? How does the fire marshal play a role in that? How do you get a certificate of occupancy? And do you have a way to give me a sheet that says, here's what I need to do so I can check it off? So they are here today. Be sure you talk with them as well. But Brandy, tell us what you do.
So my name is Brandy Flanagan. I do have the educational background, but I always say I got all of my expertise from the street. As I myself was a successful entrepreneur for about 20 years before moving over into private consulting, and then moved into working with the Small Business Development Center for about 3 years now, off and on. And what we do is we are a partner for you and your business from the time of idea all the way until the close of your business, whether you decide to sell or whether you decide to close your business. We provide at no charge to you resources that are business consulting, whether that's financial, whether that's business planning, whether that's management, whether that's marketing, expansion, anything that you can think of with your business. We have a small office, but between us and then our network of advisors throughout the United States are able to assist you in any way that you need. And I always say that this is the entrepreneurship round here. And I always tell my clients that the true heart of an entrepreneur wants to do 3 things. Number 1, it is to provide for you and your family. Number 2, it is to create jobs and help others provide for their families. And then number 3, it is to give back to your community and be a blessing to your community. And so that's what I do with my clients. First goal is always to help them be able to support their families. And the second goal is to create jobs for other people to be able to support their families, and then to always give back to the communities.
Absolutely. So I remember a Facebook post not long ago that you made, and you were kind of sharing some, okay, if you want this to work, here's what you're going to have to do. And let me tell you how it's not going to work. So I want you to kind of replay that, because that was some good nuts and bolts of, hey, listen to me.
Yes, usually I always am smiling, but it's a joke between me and my director that anytime he needs truth to be delivered, he sends me in because I don't mind giving it, because I've been in these shoes, and I know that that truth is where it lays. And so the truth is that as business owners, you've got to put in the work. I mean, you have got to, 2 of the main things that I always tell people that are wanting to start businesses or that are already in businesses is that number 1, you can never make decisions based on emotion. Those decisions for your business have to be made by numbers and by your customer experience. And as entrepreneurs, it is our job to develop that perfect customer experience, and then it's our job to figure out how we're going to pay for it. And that's where we kind of help come beside and help figure that out. But really moving from that mindset of, well, this is the cheapest thing to do, because that's actually going to tank your business. I don't remember all of the tough love that I said in the post that you're talking about, but it is extremely important to take responsibility for your business, to continue to be educated and learn. I'm going to tell you, 20 years ago when you started a business is very different than today. We did not have social media. We were not in competition with literally the whole world through e-commerce. And so kind of the days of just kind of figuring it out on your own and halfway moving out there, those days are kind of over, even at a small business level. You've really got to know what you're doing, and you've really got to have the things in place. And there are things legally that you need to make sure are in place. There are things structurally that you need to make sure to have in place. And that's where the whole business planning comes through. And that's a step that a lot of people that are starting out in businesses don't want to take because it takes time to get through that. But it's actually, I always say that's a document that you should be going back to annually and kind of re-looking at, adding to, taking away. That's kind of your governing piece for your business. And so we definitely dealt out tough love at the SBDC, but we try to smile as we say it.
Numbers don't have feelings.
Numbers do not have feelings, and it's extremely important because as entrepreneurs, we almost look at our businesses as our children, and you can't. It's one of the things that I talk to new business owners coming in is we automatically start talking about exit strategy. And the reason why I do that is because it helps to not get attached like that at your business, because you have constantly got to be willing to shift, and you have got to make decisions based on your financials of when to add employees. When to sit here, does it make more sense to go get a loan versus just paying cash for it? There's a lot of business owners that don't understand why we use the profit and loss monthly statements and the balance sheets monthly to really govern and dictate the decisions in your business. And that's what you want to make sure. Entrepreneurs, we have gut feelings that are awesome, but you never make the decision based on the gut feeling. You take that gut feeling and then you apply the financials and the research and things like that to make sure that whatever risk that you're, because we are risk takers by nature, but we got to make sure that those risks are educated risk and that we are not hurting ourselves in the process.
Well, and one thing I've seen just viewing and speaking with our chamber members, many, especially in the small business field, they will say, Stacia, this is my vision. I know how to do this. I know how to make this product or get this product done, and it's a good product. I'm not the financial person. I'm not the administrative person. I don't do those things well. And so to be able to surround yourself with the people who know what to do, you've got to have a team that can support you and help you, because if you try to do it all and you don't know how to do those things well, it's not going to go well.
Yeah, that's very true. And in some of those areas, it's just an education piece, and we come beside you and we teach you. So if it's a bookkeeping issue, we're able to come beside you and really teach you how to do those QuickBooks or whatever bookkeeping system you decide to use. I'm a big proponent in that small business owners, unless they're just not going to do it. But I really like my small business owners to know their numbers at all times. And so I like them to take responsibility of that bookkeeping, or at least to oversee it and be handed reports every month to be able to make decisions on. But I always tell entrepreneurs, we always have to do the 20% of what we don't like so that we get to do the 80% of what we do like. And so it's really learning, this is kind of that tough love piece, it's really learning the self-discipline to learn what you need to learn in those areas. Or if you marketing is one of those that's a really difficult one to learn. And so on a marketing piece, if it is a business that comes to me and I know that they're going to need a heavy marketing piece, and this is not to be ugly, but I just know that they're not capable of that, I'm going to suggest that they hire someone to do that so that it is done effectively for them. Because marketing and accounting are the two places that if you do not know what you're doing and if you do not do what you need to be doing, you can waste a lot of money and a lot of time on that. And as entrepreneurs, we don't have a lot of time and money, so we don't need to waste that.
That's right. That's right. So you'll hear later today on the Key Lunch panel about optics and about visibility and how important those things are. How do you put yourself in front of the people that need to know you're there, that need to see you? And so what you offer is critical. and then they've got to put it into practice. And so I want to ask, all of you are chamber members, I want to ask you how connecting with the community, how joining the chamber, letting that be a resource for you, letting us come alongside of you and advocate, build a business profile for you, another way for that, that search to happen and people find you. How has that been effective? And if each of you would want to speak to that.
Yeah, joining the chamber, as I said earlier, was one of the first things I did, and it's also one of the most important things I did. And the reason is because I built relationships there. I got to know people, and I got an opportunity. And one thing I learned a long time ago, some good advice I got from a friend, was just action. Do things. Get out. Nobody's going to come put a check in your mailbox. You know, you've got to get out in the community. If a ribbon cutting event, well, I've been to so many of those, I'm just not going to go to that today. And you make yourself go, and then you meet somebody who just moved here and has 3 relatives, and they all need my service. Just action, doing things, but being a part of the chamber and the window, the door that it opens into relationships, into other businesses, and you discover resources, the networking, and the opportunity to give back. You know, I don't know how successful everybody here will be, but I do know the ones that will be the most happy will be the ones who seek and find a way to help others less fortunate than yourselves.
Absolutely. So sometimes in a market where maybe what you do, there's a heavy saturation. Maybe there's a lot of people that do what you do, and you have to find a way to stand out. So I'm going to use let's just say someone in the healthcare industry. Let's say hospice. Your services are not needed until they're needed, and so it's not that you're selling a product every day that someone comes to purchase. And so the more, if I have to choose someone for that hospice service, then how is that name going to come to my mind? And I'm going to use one of our members. They are engaged in the community because they don't sell anything. They don't have specials or discounts or promotional things that they're putting out there on social media. They provide a service when it's needed. And so they're going to help with a fan drive. They're going to help with a back-to-school drive, a coat drive. They're going to be involved in events in the community and make those relationship connections so that when someone needs them, they come to mind. And so it really is an important piece. Absolutely. All right. How about y'all?
Yes, so building community for sure. So being with the chamber, a member of Rotary. So our mission really was one to support our family, but more so to build community and provide something to Marshall that Marshall didn't have, that enhances the downtown and hopefully helps kind of reach that tipping point where everything else wants to come in. So the way you do that, you have to be honest. If that's truly our brand and our vision for what we want to do, that's our why. That's why we exist. So to be true to that, it's being involved in the community. We can't say we want to support the community if we're not actually involved in the community. So doing things like this today, you know, being asked by the chamber to come and speak today, just another way to give back to the community and encourage other entrepreneurs who are looking at doing the same thing. So also, you know, sponsoring your local sports teams. And, you know, we live in this community and our business is in this community. And what we wanted was to add to the community something that didn't exist. You know, we lived in Fort Worth for a little while. So many things to do. And, you know, we moved back to East Texas, which everybody does. We're boomerang East Tech, boomerang Marshalites. Martians? Can you say Martians? Is that what? Boomerang Martians. And so, you know, I hear a lot of other people that I went to school with that have moved back and they say, well, there's just nothing to do here. I said, well, then why don't you make something to do? You know, change it. So instead of, you know, complaining about it, let's do something about it. So I said, what is it that we want? Well, we don't have breweries here. Well, let's build a brewery. Let's make that happen. Let's have that community location where people can come and hang out, bring your families, and, you know, something different. Not a bar, but a community gathering spot. But the way you do that is to be involved in the community and talk to the community. What is it that this community wants? What do they need? What's the thing that's missing that we can provide? And so knowing that, being in talking to all the people that we talk to in all these different organizations.
So speaking from the SBDC realm, the chambers are a essential piece to our ecosystem for every community. You know, one of the number one things that we start out with when someone comes in is wanting to open a business is there a need? Because if there's not a need, then, you know, your chances of success are going to be a lot less. And so one of the things that we do is we will send our clients to their local chamber and say, go talk to them, because they have the pulse of the community, of the business owners in that community. And, you know, one of the research pieces is go talk to your chamber and see what other companies are already in that area that are providing that, and research those companies, because maybe there's not a need, but you have a specific niche or you have a specific way that will be different, that you can grab a subset of people that these others aren't. And so that's a huge piece in our development piece with the chamber. And then another is that once businesses are up and going and operating, it's that whole networking piece. And I'm going to tell you, and I'm not just saying this because Stacia is up here. We cover 6 counties throughout East Texas, and your Greater Marshall Chamber of Commerce is in that top 3, no doubt. And they do a fantastic job here, and you're very blessed. And I always tell our clients, yes, give them a round of applause, that's good. I'll be honest with you, in some of our counties, I don't recommend that they join the chamber because it's at the end of the day, it's my job to make sure that my clients are spending their money wisely. But in this community, it's always a recommendation that they go. Marshall is very blessed in how the EDC, the city of Marshall, which they've got like a business hub going on with the Chamber of Commerce, and then they've brought us in to be in with the EDC. You're very blessed here with resources, and we all work extremely well together. And so I would absolutely tell you that if you have not joined the chamber in this area, to join your local chamber here for sure.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. It is a public relations job. I mean, for all of us, whether it's me as chamber, whether it's you as a business owner, you've got to make the connections. And one of the things your chamber can do is connect those dots for you where maybe you don't have that knowledge or that connection piece. And so we would love to help you with that. And we do all talk so well together. That has not always been the case, and that is not always the case everywhere you go. But you've got folks in leadership and in place here in Harrison County that want you to succeed. And so with that in mind, I'm just going to ask a couple of questions before we get to our Q&A, and y'all just jump in, all right? What are the 3 key things to keep in mind when starting a business? Now, mentioned here, what are you selling? Where will you be selling? And to whom will you be selling? Why are those important?
I don't think yeah, it is working. Okay, read that again. I'm sorry, I was messing with the mic.
All right. All right. What are you selling? Where will you be selling? And to whom will you be selling? Why is that important?
Because it's exactly what we were just talking about. If there is not a need, or if you are not able to provide a service or a product that fits in a niche that's not being filled, in this day and age, and I can say this, I know it can sound very like cut and dry, but you will not be successful, period. So you've got to identify, is there a need, and is there a niche, is there a lane that I can get in that I can become the expert, the go-to person in that field. And so that's why it's important to know all of those questions, because you've got to be able to answer that to identify, is there a need and is there a lane I can get in?
Right. So it's not enough just to be talented and have a vision.
Not in today's world. You have to understand, we're no longer in the era of where our only competition was who was in our community. We're now service-based businesses have it a little bit different. Brick and mortars have it a little bit different, but still, so like we're seeing a lot with department stores. If you'll notice, a lot of stores are closing up now. Well, it's because people are shopping online. And so your your competition now is not just who's beside you, it's the whole world now.
Right.
And so that's why it's actually better now to start in a very small niche, become the expert of that, and then add on products or services past that as you get known and the ball kind of gets rolling.
Absolutely. And supporting each other in your market is important. We have a lot of people in retail that have learned and will say, I used to not refer anyone anywhere. I wanted them in my shop. And now they'll say, no, if I can say, I don't have that today, but they've got that. Go visit them, get to know their owner. They'll take good care of you. And then in turn, that person sends them right back when they don't have something that client needs. And so as you begin to work together, really does create a synergy locally, which only helps the bottom line of our area and you.
I'd like to address the what are you selling part of that question. When I first started Gecko Pest Control, I did everything. We did bat control, we did wildlife control, we did snake control, we did commercial, we did residential. Well, my team and I, about 5 years ago, I learned about the hedgehog concept, Jim Collins, and a hedgehog is good at one thing, and that's defending itself. And so what was the most profitable part of our business? And it's reoccurring residential pest and termite. That's what we want to be. We don't do trapping anymore. We don't do wildlife anymore. We are concentrate on small commercial, even though we have the universities that are in town and the school districts, those are still part of our business, but we know what the core of our business is and what's most profitable. So find, when you first start in the service business, you want all the business you can, but as you grow, you learn what's the most profitable part and you concentrate on that. And residential is easier to train. McDonald's has a turnover rate of like 180% a year. But if they lose an employee, they put another 16-year-old kid in there, and he knows exactly what he does. If you can systemize your process and everybody's on the same page, it's easier to train. It's the most profitable. So know what you're selling. It is very important.
Absolutely, absolutely. Knowing your limitations as well. Yes. All right. I think we are to our Q&A point. And so I think Brian is going to grab one of the microphones. And if you have a question for one of our panelists, just raise your hand, and Brian will bring that to you. We would love for you to pick their brains. So take this opportunity. Ask anything you want. I can tell it's the morning. We need more coffee. All right.
Good morning. Thank you all for the information in this panel. I just really have a simple question, and I'd like for each of the business owners to respond to it. The question is, what is the biggest piece of advice that you wish you had known when you started the business that you know now?
I would say was understanding that people love to help people. It's amazing what people will do for you, especially if you ask. Sometimes you don't even have to ask. People just offer. It's human nature. You want to help somebody else. You want to help them succeed. So I think something that Tex mentioned earlier is talking to other people in the industry. People in this market that you're competing against probably don't want to help you, but people in Oklahoma, in New Jersey, or California, just find a business and call and say, hey, I'm starting up a business, because you know what? They started it sometime, and somebody helped them. So research your industry, but reach out to other people in your industry who have already hit the bumps in the road and already overcome the problems. That's critical. It took me a while to learn that.
So for us, we're still in the process of opening. So the pain point, I can say, first of all, be very cautious when you have a contractor. Start with a great contractor. That will save you a ton of money and a ton of pain. But otherwise, again, be involved in the community. There are a lot of resources available to you, and you will need them. So if you think you can do this on your own, you're probably wrong.
I would say, again, this is kind of the tough love, Brandy, is that it's not about you. It is 100% about your customer. And it's not about your favorite color for your logos. It's about, once you've identified your niche, what colors attract that person, that customer base. It is 100% about you putting in the work to know your customer, who your perfect customer is, and how to develop your whole business and your whole customer experience around that, along with the things that you enjoy. So you like brewing, but you had to get to know your area to be able to know what to bring to the restaurant that was going to bring in customers for the restaurant. So with all love, it's not about you. It is about your customer. And if you can stay customer focused throughout the entirety of your business, you will be so much more successful.
Absolutely. Okay, I believe right up. Okay, yes. Kelly?
Hi, I'm Kelly Williams. I have a question. So can you give me an instance where in the beginning stages of your business that you had a really big challenge or an obstacle, or maybe in your business plan, something major was happening and you needed to overcome this challenge, and perhaps you just wanted to like give it all up and just say, look, I can't lean in. This is too big for me. But you were able to ride it out and figure it out. Can you give me some examples, or a big example where you just, were able to get over that, and what you did to kind of get past the challenge or that obstacle in the very beginning?
Okay, I guess I'll start. So how do you answer that and be encouraging at the same time? So yeah, there have been those things along the way, challenges. I have shed tears in the walk-in cooler in the basement throughout the process. The biggest challenges, and just to be honest with everyone in the room who's going to go through this. One, first of all, don't give up. So there will be challenges. It will happen. There will be hurdles, and the people that succeed are the ones who are stubborn enough to not give up. That's the thing. You cannot win if you give up. I would rather lose trying than lose because I didn't even try, right? So you have to push through those things. There's always a way. It just may take a little more work and a little more skin, a lot more sweat and tears. So I had a point with that, and I lost myself. Let's see. Biggest challenges right now for us have been just with things being more expensive and fluctuating from the time we started and evaluated and got quotes to the time that things actually show up. And I'm sure all of you are dealing with the same thing. That's just the reality of the world we live in right now with, you write a business plan, you get all your numbers, everything's great, and then Ukraine happens, and then all of a sudden things skyrocket that you didn't expect. Certain products are more expensive. Supply chain, again, still from COVID. So there's a lot of those things. I mean, we watched the price of lumber skyrocket and then drop back down and then come back up again. Each month, each week, it's changed. And so as we're buying lumber, what it cost us a week ago is now different than what it cost us today. And so those are just the realities of the situation you're in. You just can't give up. And so when you feel that, and I've been there several times, I won't say that maybe this morning was one of them, but you just have to push through it and stay strong. And talk to your friends. So all of these people in the room, all the other business owners, the other entrepreneurs have been through this. They can talk you off the ledge. So when I started the brewery, I'm good friends with Jeremy Roberts, who owns 903 Brewing in Sherman. Does anybody know 903 Brewing? They're a brewery in Sherman. They're huge now. He's in like 17 countries distributing. He started like I did. I knew him when he started with 5-gallon brewing at home by himself. And now he's this huge company. When I was writing my business plan, I communicated with him and said, would you read through this? Am I even close, or am I way off? He read through it, and he gave me some advice to tweak a couple of things. But he said, you will you will hit times when you're discouraged, and people will tell you you're crazy, that it won't work, that you can't get there. He said, when you hit that, call me and let me boost you back up, because you can do this. It will work. You can make this happen. So that's the support you need, because it will happen. You will be there.
Problems. I learned a long time ago to call them challenges. But I got problems, you got problems, all God's children got problems. But the biggest thing is to always believe there's an answer. And I also learned a long time ago that your attitude is extremely important. When somebody asks you how you're doing, okay, I'm doing good. It's fantastic, amazing, awesome. You know, when I worked at the large company, I did the pest control at the Dallas Cowboys facility. I opened Gecko Pest Control, and I thought, well, I sold it before, I can sell it again. I went and sold it. And when I walked down the hallway doing the pest control and I listened to people, how you doing? Fantastic. Oh, great. It's going to be a great day. That's the mindset they have. And it takes that to succeed. So you got to get up out of bed in this morning, say a prayer, and the first person that asks you how you're doing, fantastic. How's your business going? We're going great. We got a plan. We're going to get there. That doesn't mean that everything's perfect in your life, but there's positive and negative people, and you got to concentrate on being positive, because positive attracts positive. So always believe there's an answer. Break things down a little bit at a time. You're not Superman. You can't do everything. Have your rocks. You know, your rocks are big problems that are going to give 3 months to solve. Break them down in little pieces and attack them. But I really believing there's an answer, and your attitude. I think it was Lee Iacocca said there's very few things that we have control over in this world. We think we do. But, you know, we could walk out the door and get hit by a truck, and, you know, there's something you don't have control over a lot of things. But one thing you do have control over is your attitude. So how you attack things and your outlook is critical and goes a long way towards breaking down problems.
Yeah, I would say that it's just extreme. I don't know where she went. Okay, there you are. So I can remember at 23 being a young entrepreneur, and I thought I was about to get to set my own schedule. I thought I was going to be going on these, you know, vacations with all these pictures, like, you know, all this money was going to be coming in. I didn't have the correct expectations, right? So one thing that we really try to do is to set proper expectations. And I think it is one of the things that small business owners really need to do, because I think a lot of frustration comes because you have unrealistic expectations. And so another thing that we're able to do at the SBDC, I have one client over here in Marshall that literally comes in every week. I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to close up shop. I'm just going to, you know, I'm like, okay, let's take a deep breath. And we work through several different, you know, options of whatever's going on. And there's one thing that I learned with running businesses for 20 years. There is always a way. Yes. Always a way. Yes. You just have to find the way. And if you don't know the way, you have to get with the people who do know the way. And you have to be teachable, and you have to apply what they're telling you.
Don't be afraid to modify when needed. That reminds me, and we'll close out here. I know we have some time to network next and visit with the resource vendors, but my daughter in a basketball game one day, got to visit with her just briefly at halftime. She said, Mom, they're shutting me down. This girl is coming right at me. I can't get around her. What do I do? And she said, nothing's working. And I said, okay, you use your strengths against the weakness. And I said, you're faster. I said, you fake and you go around and you go fast. And she's like, I'd never thought of that. You know, so in her mind, she hit a wall and there was no answer. She was going to lose the game. She was the point guard. There was a way. And when you figure it out or surround yourself with the people who can help you figure it out, you modify and you move forward and you keep trying to achieve success. So thank you all so much for being here today. Please pick their brains in between sessions. Visit with us at any time. And I believe we're now going to break until 10 o'clock with the vendors and the resources. Go get another cup of coffee, and we'll see you in just a bit.